Hello, BookTube. We're going to continue with my library tour. I know you thought you'd heard the last of that phrase, but as I mentioned yesterday, I did an epic roundup, a finish to my library tour here in this little book room, and it refused to upload on my computer. And I had a whole bunch of different, I have go-to experts, or quasi-experts, and they had a whole bunch of different opinions as to why that would be. No one could come to a consensus. So I instituted my own remedy, which was to make a shorter video and see if maybe that works. A shorter video with no links. And some of you have been, it worked. It did work. That video uploaded and my library tour continued. And some of you wrote me very touching emails that I very much like, even though there are friends of mine who would say it's a danger to feed the ego of someone like me. Nevertheless, several of you emailed and said that you actually did miss the links. In my library tours in the past, if I could find a link to something that I had written about one of the books that I mentioned, I would include it. And several of you wrote to me. Keep in mind, my email is down below. Feel free to email me about this or any other subject at any time. Several of you emailed me and said that you enjoyed following up watching the video by doing a lot of reading. So I take it as a compliment. Of course, booktubing is near and dear to my heart, but writing about books is the thing I do naturally, so that was nice to hear. But I'm still not going to include links, just in case they are the problem. It was so frustrating to have that notification pop up saying this video failed to upload, and give no details, no way for me to fix it. But then again, in library tours or in anything else, if you go to Google and you type in my first name, my last name, the first and last name of the author that you have a question about, and the name of the book, you will find out in rapid order whether or not I've ever written about it. So I'm doing this top shelf now, and I split it in half. We stopped with Earthly Powers by Anthony Burgess. I want to take this opportunity to stress again, you should read Earthly Powers by Anthony Burgess, but then we'll move on. This next one is a vintage trade paperback. The UK, I believe, I got it at Book Depository, just because I liked the look of it. This is Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. Just a lovely look of it. And I got it realizing that the only other Death in Venice that I had was a little hardcover translation. This has other stories in it as well, so I got that. And then this next one is Patrick O'Brian, the seafaring novels of Patrick O'Brian, the Aubrey and Maturin novels. And as I mentioned yesterday, one of the reasons that allowed me to do this wrap-up so quickly is that almost one whole shelf of the shelves in question here is Patrick O'Brian novels. This is The Letter of Mark. And this is the edition, the first row of hardcovers that came, I don't know if it's the first edition, but this was the first row of hardcovers that came out. Whereas the next ones that came out looked like this and had the Roman numeral number of which book in the series it was on the cover. So you get the same cover illustration, but it's different. They are slightly different. See, this has more of the painting, but it has a uniform cover with a number. This has less of the painting, and they look a little different. I think that's what threw me off, because I got this thinking that I didn't have it. And it's not with the others, although it should be. I should put all the Patrick O'Brian together, even if they're duplicates. This next one was another Book Depository choice, but I didn't get it on Book Depository before I could do that. One of you sent it to me. This is Tony Judt's masterpiece, Post-War. And this is what is this? This is another vintage trade paperback that was on Book Depository. I had never seen it before in a bookstore or used, and I love the book. The only edition I'd ever seen is the huge orange spine penguin trade paperback. And I like that, but I like this even better. This is more brickish, fits more naturally in the hand. Okay, then we have two Star Trek novels. I'm a big Star Trek fan, huge Star Trek fan, and I've read an ungodly amount of Star Trek fiction. And of course, when I say I'm a huge Star Trek fan, what I mean is the original Star Trek. I like, to varying degrees, virtually every other franchise. I don't have much affection for Star Trek The Next Generation. I love Deep Space Nine. I love Voyager. I love Star Trek Enterprise, the much neglected, scorned and hated Star Trek Enterprise. I can't stand Star Trek Discovery, nor can any Star Trek fan that I know. So, but most of it, yes. And I read the books. I've read a mountain of Star Trek fiction. And recently, a small arm of the publisher that's owned, of the the conglomerate that owns both the studio and Star Trek and the books, started bringing out original Star Trek novels in trade paperback. And I almost missed it. They've been in mass market. I would go into the Barnes & Noble, a new retail bookstore, specifically to look for the latest Star Trek fiction. And I would look with the mass market paperbacks. And I might have missed these things. I'm glad I didn't. And there are two of them here. One is The Captain's Oath. And this is by Christopher Bennett. And it's about Jim Kirk's very earliest starship commands and the people that he knew, and there are Easter eggs. There are little mentions here and there for a long time Star Trek fans. I liked it. Bennett he can be a very boring writer, just very boring. And in a way, I'm willing to say it's not his fault, or not entirely his fault, because the suits at corporate for the Star Trek novels, at least from what I've heard, they ride very heavily on any kind of written material. So who knows how much freedom Christopher Bennett had in the writing of this book. And then the next one's another trade paperback. I'm going to keep an eye out for these trade paperbacks. I'll be glad to have them all. This next one is the Antares Maelstrom. I wrote about this, so there's a review out there somewhere. This is by Greg Cox. And it was... there were parts of it that were fairly good. Some Star Trek novels are much better than others. These two are nothing to write home about. They're fairly enjoyable. The thing that interests me is that they are in a continuity that officially the Star Trek universe, the canon Star Trek universe, is anything on the big screen in the movie theaters. If it happens in the movie theater, then it's canon. And in the first J.J. Abrams movie, the first Star Trek movie that J.J. Abrams directed with all the lens flare, the ones with all the lens flare, this universe is left behind. The Spock from this universe travels through an interdimensional rift to an alternate reality. So, and he never goes back home. He dies in that alternate reality. So, and this is the reality that he left behind, the reality that the original show is set in. So it's kind of weird that there are books still coming out at all, but I'm happy about it. Okay, this next one is this is a novel by Silas House called Southernmost. I got a trade paperback of this. I really, really liked it on a sentence-by-sentence level. It's gorgeously written about a pastor in small town Tennessee who takes in a gay couple, two gay men, whose house has been destroyed by the flood. And it changes the pastor's life, and it changes their life, and it's... And that's the plot, and that plot would be kind of interesting on its own, but the writing it did it for me for this book. I just thought it was fantastic. Then we have Square Foot Gardening. This is a book in which the author lays out his plan for you to take a square foot of ground and grow an enormous amount of food by carefully managing what you do. And I got this because I was... a year ago or more ago, I was in love with the idea of making a garden of my own, and I still am. I have not given up on the gardening project. I have not. We're in the middle of winter now, or we're heading into winter now. Today is that incredibly quiet, leaden feeling that the air gets right before a storm. So I've been watching the forecasts of Winter Storm Ezekiel, the different tracks, the different models, trying to figure out what's going to happen in Boston. And also in southern Vermont, because I feel proprietary about a certain small patch of southern Vermont. I've been watching all of these models, but now we've reached the point where I don't have to anymore, because just walking Frida this morning, I can feel in the air that something is definitely going to happen. I don't know what. I don't know how bad it'll be. But something, there's no chance that we're not going to get weather here. So then this next one's another Patrick O'Brien. This is a trade paperback of the Yellow Admiral. I have the hardcover of this. I must have just grabbed the trade paperback. Maybe it was free or something like that. And then, again, we're going to try and keep these videos brief. I hate to do it because we're so close to the end, but I'm going to do, this is just one, we'll do one more book. I have to reach over the camera here on my nifty tripod. This is Henry David Thoreau, Cape Cod. In the old editions, these have illustrations by Henry Bugby Kane, who I just love. He is one of my all-time favorite book illustrators, and he did a whole series of these. He did a whole series of Thoreau, and I want them all. I absolutely want them all. Thanks to the eagle eye of Mark Richardson, my host, the host of Richardson Reads, the BookTube channel, up in Vermont, I was able to get another one of these. but I want them all. so that I think we'll stop. I think we'll stop there, and just to make sure that length isn't the problem with these videos. Although yesterday I uploaded a video that was nearly 3 times as long as a library tour, and it uploaded just fine. So I don't think length is the issue. And I'm not sure why YouTube would suddenly object to links in videos if I've had links on hundreds of others. So I'm not sure that's the problem. Another person suggested that, you know, if you've been uploading all of your videos on your MacBook Pro and suddenly you try to upload this one on a MacBook Air, maybe your settings aren't right. Maybe that was, I have no idea. So I'm going to keep this nice and short, 11 minutes, and we'll just continue. There's no reason. I'm back here at Hyde Cottage. We can just continue the library tour until it's done. No reason to do it in gigantic jumps. So we'll do another installment tomorrow, and then one the next day. Sooner or later, very soon, we will get to the end of this thing. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.